Okay, in this tutorial we're going to look at bringing our final PSDs into After Effects and applying the parallax effect to this. So let's just go in and file import. And I'm just going to bring in my final scene. You're going to be asked what you want to bring this in as. I'm going to bring in it as composition retain layer sizes. We're not using any layer styles, but you can choose to bring these in so you can edit them using any drop shadows or anything, or merge layers into the footage itself. So I can kind of ignore it. Okay. So this is given us in After Effects, it's called composition. It's just a collection of all these. If I look into this, just double clicking it, we can actually see all our layers are intact. What I am going to do is put this into the correct size. So I'm going to click on this button down here, create a new composition, and I'm going to set this to a preset of HD TV 720, 25 frames a second. Okay. And now with this one selected, this one's called Comp1, I can drag this composition that was made by bringing our PSD file into this file. And you'll see straight away, I'm just going to use the more than less than keys. So the more than zooms in, less than zooms out. You can see that our image is much bigger than our actual comp size. So what we can do with this is, if we just click on the layer down here, this is effectively what this is now. And I'm going to click on, press P, and in fact, sorry, S to get our scale. I'm just going to scale this down. You can see in this that these are different aspect ratios. This is something that you should work towards for avoiding. I'm going to bring this down a bit more. What I'm going to do is fake it afterwards. Just because I want to see the legs, I could. No, I'm going to chop the head off. So I'm going to bring this down. Also, just use our arrow keys to move this about. Okay, I'll leave it like that for now. So, just go back into this. What I'm going to do is we can have the double click on this to go into this composition. I've actually got my final parallax composition here. Or you can double click here as well. So I'm just going to click on this one. So this is the one with the layers. So you can see here we've got all these layered up from our background, our ground, our player, our ball. To make the parallax effect, it's not simply just a case of positioning these or scaling these around. So if I went into the ball, for example, and just went into my scale tool again, S, and scaled this up, that's not going to give us the effect of zooming in, because nothing else in the background. If we're going to zoom everything in, let's Control Z. So let's shift select all the layers, S, scale, and then scale this in. Okay, it's not really giving us a true parallax effect. And another problem you can see there, we're losing some of the background areas in this as well. Let's just undo that. Just press S, can get rid of the scale. So what we need to do is put a 3D camera in the scene. So we can do this in a couple of ways. I'm just going to go around in our timeline window, right click, go to New, a new camera. And I'm just going to choose just a standard 50mm camera. That warning is just about this only works with layers that are actually 3D layers. I've been changed over to 3D layers. And right now we have none of those in the scene. So the first thing we need to do is just going to click on these, shift select all of these. And we need to be looking under this area here, 3D layer. If this isn't on, you might want to toggle your switches and modes, button down here. Or you can toggle that with F4. So I'm just going to switch on. With all these selected, it just switches them all on. And they're ready to use as 3D layers. So let's see how we can reposition this, because what we need to do is actually reposition these back in space. So back basically on the Z-axis. So the easiest way to do this is to just change the view layout. I'm going to change it to let's say just 2 views horizontal. So what I've got here is a top view and the active camera. So I can come to this top view and zoom out with the same keys. And all our layers are along this same plane, the same axis, right in the center. So let's change that. I'm going to go into the ball first of all. If I just click on position, we actually have, if we didn't have this as a 2D layer, so let's just click out of this for a second. Let's switch that 2D layer off, go into position. We only have 2 values on there, the X and Y values, so just the across and the vertical, horizontal and vertical positions. If I switch this back to a 3D layer, you can see that now we actually have a Z position as well. So this is a position towards and away from the camera. So if we just click on this, and let's bring this closer to the camera itself. You can actually see what we're doing here is we're not scaling this. Because we're bringing it closer to the camera, it seems to be getting larger. So let's bring this up, right up here. If you just select the camera, you can actually see that. So this is where our camera is positioning. So this is our position on the camera. Maybe a little bit more. Let's right up to the foreground. Now, because this has scaled this effectively in this viewport, we want to get back to where we had this originally. You might want to use the reference of your original image for this. What I'm going to do is just kind of eyeball it. So I'm going to go back onto the ball, press S for scale, and I'm going to scale this down. Back to roughly where it was. We may also need to go back into the position and just move this back across as well. Okay, let's do the play now. So same thing, choose that layer, press P, and bring this forward. The play is just in front of the ball. Again, we need to scale this down. If I actually press Shift and S, we can get the position and the scale up. So scale, let's scale this down. Position is okay actually. Let's get the background, and let's just grab that position. And again, let's just move this time, move this further back. So you can see we've got these black edges around this. To alleviate that, just because the positioning back in space, back in 3D space, if I just press Shift S, I can actually scale this back up. And we might just need to position this just up in the view as well. Okay. So now we've got those things positioned. That just wasn't quite. Let me just get the background again. Let's move this up a tad more. Okay, now we've got those. We can go into our camera. And if we start moving our camera around now, just go into the position for the camera. In fact, if I just go into the drop down for this, with the camera we have 2 separate options. If we just go into the transform, we have the position of the camera itself and we have the point of interest. So the position of the camera, we just start moving this around. You can actually start seeing that parallax effect. What we may need to do is scale some of these elements up. You can see as it's going across that way, starting to lose some of the background areas. So let's just get this background. In fact, let's just start animating this camera first of all. We can see what we're working with in terms of this. So with the camera, I'm just going to click on the little stopwatch at frame 0. The little stopwatch on the side of position. And this is going to allow us to animate it. So it's given us a key already. I'm just going to move forward a little bit in time. And I'm going to just change this X position. Okay. I can also push this forward, so I'm going to effectively zoom into this, so kind of dollying in. And just to keep some of the framing in this, I'm just going to move this around a little bit. Okay, that's given our parallax effect. So we can just fix up the background and the ground. Let's just dial down all of these. Let's go into our ground a second, P and Shift S. Let's just scale this up. Let's get our background, P, Shift S. And let's just shift the position of this, maybe a little bit scale. And there we go. We have our parallax effect. Okay, I'm just going to go back into my comp. So everything we've done in the last one we've got here. So if I just press space, just preview through this. So I'm just going to use just a mask around this, or a vignette, just to get rid of this definite line here. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to right click, new, go to a new solid. Just going to make this black and OK. Make sure this is the comp size. So what we need to do is create a matte for this. Right now this obviously is on top of the other layer, so just like Photoshop, you can't see anything underneath. So I'm just going to go up here to the rectangle tool, go to the ellipse tool, make sure you have this layer selected, and I'm just going to double click on this tool. And that just creates this circle matte. It's actually the wrong way around. So if we just go into this, and it's actually open it up for us, the first thing we need to do is click on inverted. Then what I'm going to do is just shift these two corners in, so just using the normal arrow tool. I'm going to go click off those points and click on them, and just move those in a little bit. Just a simple Bezier again, so you can play with the Bezier handles. Bring this in. And just go into the options for the mask. I'm going to feather this. So I'm just going to soften the whole mask off. So I still need to bring these in. In that kind of amount. Okay. We could also, if you wanted to, add something like an adjustments layer onto this. So again, just right clicking onto this. I'm just going to quickly just look where my effects window is, effects controls. I'm just going to drag this over. So we've got our project and our effect controls. I'm just going to right click in this area. I'm going to go to color correction and something like levels, or maybe actually let's just click on that and delete. Color correction and a curves. It's going to do another contrast curve on this. Right click again and go to color correction and do a tint. And I could bring this amount down. Effectively doing is kind of desaturating it. And that's it. So to be able to output this, I can go back to the project window. Obviously make sure you save your work. So I'll just save this. Save as. And then what we can do is go to our final comp. If you want to rename this, by the way, you can just click on it, press enter, and we can call this render comp. Click on this, go to composition and add to render queue. This brings up another tab down at the bottom here. The only thing we need to do is the output. So if you just go into the output itself, we can go in, choose where we're going to save this. Okay. If you want to change the output settings, we can go into the output modules. We can change our type down here. So if you want to do it as MPEG-4, H.264, whatever you want, then just click OK. And then all we need to do is just click on the render button. And it just goes through and renders the whole thing. Okay, and that's rendered. So this is the final version. Okay. Incidentally, I didn't have my animation on there. Let's just go the whole way through the project. So let's just go back into this. I'm just going to go back to my Parallax. I'm going to go back to the camera. If you just click U, it will show us anything that's animated. And just says position keyframe here. I'm just using it basically to test for the background before. But to make this better, if I just drag this right to the end. What we can also do on this is select click off that one. Select both of these keyframes by dragging around them. I'm just going to press F9 on that. That's the screen capture. I'm going to right click and go to Keyframe Assistant and set this to an easy ease. What it's just going to do is add a bit of acceleration and deceleration into the animation. Okay. So we could just do the same thing again. Let's go into our render comp, add to render queue, give it the settings, the output, and then just render out. And that's it.